Perfect. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us this morning. I hope wherever you are, the weather is still okay. It's looks like it's going to chuck it down where I am in East Lancashire, but it might be a break from the heat. So thank you very much for joining us. This particular session is a key component of our Accounting and Finance virtual conference that we've been running for the last couple of weeks. So for those students who are studying Accounting and Finance, this will be a very useful session as part of your modules. But there's also quite a few other students who are joining the call from outside of Accounting and Finance, from across the business school and across the university. That's one of the great things about running webinars, is that we can reach lots of different students around the world, essentially. So please do introduce yourself in the chat. We want it to be as interactive as possible. It's going to be a Q&A style session, so we definitely need interaction from students. But just to say welcome to everyone. Thank you for all the students that are joining us, but particular thank you to Hannah and Lauren, who will be answering questions about their work as audit managers at DTE Group. And we've also been joined by Ella, who's somewhere in the midst, I think, lurking in the background, who may be joining us for some questions as well. So yeah, just a thank you, really. We've worked with DTE Group for a number of years now. They offer a fantastic service in terms of audit, and we're very keen to work with them around student recruitment. I think you've been to campus a couple of times to our careers fairs and to face-to-face activity, and you're doing a couple of these sessions as part of our conference. So particular thank you to DTE Group for today. We'll be recording this session for anyone that wants to watch it back, and also to maximise, I guess, the impact of anything that DTE Group would like to share. We can share that with students after the fact as well. But by all means, if anyone's got any questions as we go through, please do just write them into the chat. Rachel Sterrett, who's in my team, will be monitoring the chat and answering any questions around tech that she can, but also fielding any questions for DTE Group. We're also joined by Stacey Noble, who is a lecturer in Accounting and Finance, and Stacey will be dipping in and out as well. I'm very happy to answer any questions that any accounting students have. So do you just want to quickly introduce yourself, Lauren and Hannah, and just mention a little bit about what you do, and I guess a little bit more about DTE Group for anyone that isn't, up to speed, I guess?
Yeah. So, as Matthew said, I'm Hannah. I'm an audit manager at DTE Business Advisors, based in our Bury office, the head office. I started at DTE in September 2014 after graduating from Liverpool John Moores University with a business and finance degree. I wasn't entirely sure what I wanted to do, really, I suppose, after my degree. I had specialised, obviously, as I say, in finance, which had an accountancy module in the last year, which I particularly enjoyed. So yeah, joined DTE September 2014, started on my ACA qualification pretty much straight away. My second week at DTE, I was in college studying towards it. And last July 2019, I became an audit manager. I was promoted to audit manager from a senior role. So yes, currently have around 175 clients, which ranges from small sole trader, bookkeeping, VAT return clients, right up to 50 million turnover group audits. And yeah, it's a great variation of work. No day's the same. And yeah, my hobbies outside of work are horse riding. So introduce yourself, Lauren.
Yeah, I'm Lauren. Quite a similar path to Hannah as well. I graduated York University with a maths degree in 2014, and then came to DTE in 2015. Quite similarly, didn't really know what I wanted to do after university, so I took a bit of time in between to kind of figure that out. Applied for the job at DTE and got it. And yeah, similar path, went from senior to semi-senior to senior throughout my 4 or 5 years at DTE now, and got promoted at the same time as Hannah to audit manager last year. So yeah, now I manage around 150 clients, ranging from bookkeeping, VAT returns to international groups, sort of subsidiaries of international groups, with 50 million turnover, same as Hannah, kind of thing. And also I'm in charge of the training side at DTE. So all the trainees that come in, I would manage their ACA qualifications and their route to qualifying as a chartered accountant. So generally each year we take on 3 students. They go on to the ACA qualification with the ICAW, the Institute of Chartered Accountants, England and Wales. And most of them have a quite successful route to chartered accountancy. Yeah, so that's me.
Fantastic. Well, it's really nice to meet both of you. And, I guess what comes across straight away is that you're very enthusiastic about what you do, and you've been working at DT for quite a number of years now. So it speaks to me that it must be a good employer to work for, and that you must enjoy what you do in terms of audit. My first question, I guess, based on that is, could you describe to our students, what is audit, and a little bit more about possibly what your day-to-day looks like when you're an audit manager?
Yeah. Audit, the definition from a textbook is reasonable assurance that the accounts are true and fair, but that doesn't really mean a lot to many people. I suppose mainly it's just checking that a set of accounts that have been prepared by the company are correct. So we do a number of tests on the accounts, just to check that the figures in there are correct, within a range that we call materiality. So an example might be, at the year end, a company might show a balance sheet with monies owed to them from customers, and after the year end we will check how much of that money has come in, to see if that figure at the year end was correct.
Yeah, this is only done on companies that are turning over 10.2 million. So it's got to meet two of the 3 criteria. So it's 10.2 million turnover, gross assets of over 5.1 million, and employees of over average employees over 50 across the year. So as Lauren said, we're just basically doing a sense check on their figures and making sure that everything what they've reported in their accounts is true. So it's not as glamorous as some people think, if people think it is glamorous at all, I suppose, because obviously a lot of companies have a high amount of stock, so it will result in us attending stock takes, which can be a bit muddy and dirty, and counting screws and things like that. So yeah, it does involve us getting a bit hands-on as well.
I've got a question from Rachel. She just asked, do you go into the business to do the auditing? So I guess, do you actually go to work with the clients that you're responsible for, I guess?
Yeah, we do attend the client's premises anywhere between 1 and 3 weeks out on site to do the audit. We need access to all their paperwork, and also we just need to talk to the clients face to face to understand what their systems are, their processes, to understand how we can then perform our testing. Obviously at the moment, with the coronavirus, it's been quite difficult. We've had to do everything from home, but hopefully in the next few months we'll get back out on site and it'll be much easier.
Yeah, I guess it must be quite different working at home and not being able to, I guess, be immersed in that business. I've worked for companies before, and where we've had auditors come in, and you are quite involved in sort of the office, and there's a dedicated space for you, and you get to see how the business runs and operates, really. What would you say, I guess, is what you like most about working with clients and actually going out there onto client site? Because I do get asked that question a lot by students, what is the experience like going out there as opposed to being in your DTE group main office?
It's the variation, I suppose, for me. No day's the same. You can't really predict in the morning either what you're going to be doing that day. A client could ring you with an issue and you've got to kind of deal with it there and then. when you're going out to client offices as well. I mean, like me and Lauren have been at DT now coming up 5-6 years. So the clients that we've worked with for that full time, and they've seen us grow from like a junior coming and asking questions with our little notepad, like quite worried, and now we're a manager on those jobs, and you end up building up a really good relationship with them. You know, some of them you've got like you know really well, and you know a lot about the family life and the hobbies, and you can talk to them more about just work. You can and ends up being that you can talk to them a lot easier and a lot freer about accounting because they're so comfortable with you. So yeah, I've really enjoyed building these relationships with the clients.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, I mean, working with accounting and finance students in particular, sometimes I think they don't really realize exactly how client facing you will be, and how, you know, how much it is a people's job really working in audit. You've got to be able to build good relationships with your clients to keep repeat business, etc. So it's good to see that you do enjoy that. And I guess in terms of your location, it's in Bury, isn't it, in Manchester? So it's not too far from where I am, actually, 20 minutes away, I think. But what kind of geography do you work on? Is it just the Northwest? Do you end up going to work with companies further afield?
Yeah.
It's mainly the Northwest, but we do have maybe 10 to 20 clients that are outside the Northwest, and we might have to stay overnight there. We've got a few in Scotland now, some down south. So it's nice because it's not you're not doing that all the time. You're not sent here and there. Most of the time you are at home, but you do get the variability to go and stay away for a week and just get something different.
So we've got a question from Ben. Is an audit inspection like an Ofsted inspection? Is it that companies are not warned in advance that auditors are going to be coming in?
No, the company will choose their auditor as well. So obviously there's a range of audit companies across the country that they can choose from. So that's why clients are a lot more friendly with us, because they've chosen us from a range of companies across the country, as I said. So and yeah, we agree a date with them in advance. They know when we're coming, and we have correspondence with them probably the week before, getting information before it. And they can, we often even request like samples and things in advance, so they know what's coming and they can prepare for it. And at the end of it, they don't get a percentage or.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's quite different to what an Ofsted inspection would be, I guess. So hopefully that answers your question, Ben. And it definitely sounds like you work in really close partnership with those clients that you're working with. And I guess you wouldn't go to visit a client when they're super busy with something else. It's working out the best time for them.
Yeah.
Stacey, who's our accounting and finance lecturer who's on the call, just wanted to re-emphasize that obviously communication skills are very important. And I guess because you're working with so many different industries, could you kind of tell us, I know you possibly can't tell us the names of your clients, but the different types of sectors that you work in?
Yeah, we've got a really wide range of industries actually that we work with. So some are in the construction industry, building some of the tower blocks in Manchester that are going up at the moment. Some might be retail, garden centres, just a really wide range of industries, a lot in manufacturing.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously dealing with each of those clients is quite different because they've got different priorities in their businesses, and different ways that they work. So
very good. And I guess you get a really good insight into how those companies operate, and you can kind of see the differences between working, I guess, in quite a corporate office, possibly a DTE group, and then going to work and sort of be there for 3 weeks in a construction business is very different.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Have you found any companies, any sectors that you were really interested in after doing the audit? You know, you've never really realised before, you know, the type of work they do, and you found it to be really exciting?
We have recently won quite a big group of audits that are ranging from loads of different, obviously, sectors. And I've recently took on a job of an audit of a forensics company. So
Wow.
they write the reports for the police. So that's been really interesting this year, to learn into, you know, their ins and outs of how it works. And yeah, it was pretty interesting. Yeah.
Wow, that sounds really impressive. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Quite a variety.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely.
Yeah, and we don't really specialise as managers. We have a really broad range of clients, as Lauren said. So as well, when you take on new clients, it's learning how to build your tests around how to test their like income, purchases, because obviously no business is the same.
No, that's really interesting, and I hadn't really considered that you'd be going into such a variety of businesses, really, and completely different sectors. So yeah, that sounds good. And you know, definitely, I guess if anyone is listening on the call that's looking for a career that has that kind of variation, it definitely sounds like audit is a good area to think about, really. We've got a question again from Rachel. I guess thinking more about the client experience. So how do companies, I guess, make a choice to work with DTE Group rather than, I guess, another business, rather than the Big Four, maybe? What would you say the difference is between working with you as opposed to another organisation, another auditor?
It would depend on the size of the company. So a lot of listed companies would go with the Big Four, just because that's expected of them. At DT, we don't really deal with listed companies. We just mainly deal with limited companies, a lot of owner-managed businesses. So with DT, they get kind of an all-round service. We can offer them accounting services, tax services, and audit services, whereas the Big Four don't tend to do that all-round sort of package, because of that kind of independence issues with listed companies. They're not allowed to do that. So that might be one factor to going with DT rather than a Big Four. Price as well might be another they would consider, and experience, I suppose. DT might have experience in a construction industry, whereas a smaller firm might not have that range. They might never come across a construction industry client before. So yeah, what do you think, Hannah?
Yeah, we tend to win a lot of clients through word of mouth as well, don't we? When finance directors have moved from one company to another, they like to keep the same auditor. So we will win the audit in the next company that they go into, just because we've got that relationship with them. And through word of mouth, just.
Yeah, just in terms of, I guess, for the audience, how big is DT Group? How many people actually work within your business, your office? And I guess in terms of audit, how many auditors have you got?
I think we've got 80 staff altogether. That's across a number of departments. I think probably 30 in the audit department. Do you think, Hannah?
Yeah, so that's 5 partners, 5 managers, and then about 20 junior to senior staff. Yeah.
So we've got a payroll department, a tax department, wealth management department, and corporate finance as well. Yeah,
very good. And I guess as well, it's got quite a friendly vibe to it, with it being a relatively smaller practice. What would you kind of say to some students listening that might be considering working within a smaller audit firm compared to one of the Big Four? What would you say are some of the good things that you enjoy about the culture, I guess?
So me and Lauren obviously started out as graduates at DTE and have worked up to manager. So we've all been in your shoes, as have a lot of the other managers who are at DTE, and so we know how it feels. We're kind of very approachable. The relationship that we have at DTE as well. We've been on holiday together 3 times. We've been city breaks. We've been to Madrid, Prague. And where was it, Lauren? Berlin. We do charity events. We've done Tough Mudder. We've walked the Yorkshire Three Peaks. So we're all very close, and that helps in people's study and also with the work, that they feel as though if there's ever a problem, they can speak to us and it gets resolved quickly. So, yeah.
I think as well, like the advantage of working for like a mid-tier firm like DTE as opposed to a Big Four would be the experience that you get. I think at a Big Four you'd be you'd be doing only audit or only accounts. You might even be doing only audit in a certain sector, whereas at DT you get to prepare accounts, you get to audit accounts, and it gives you a really broad understanding of everything. It gives you a better understanding of how to do the audit work once you've learned how to prepare a set of accounts as well.
The audits as well that the top 4 do can typically take 3, 4, 5 months. So you could only work on 2 audits a year, whereas at DTR audits are obviously a lot smaller, so they'll take between 2, 3 weeks. So you could be working on 10, 11 audits a year, which gives you a broader knowledge of different companies and how to do different tests on different companies. So as Lauren said, just broad knowledge.
Brilliant. And again, that variety is there as well. If you're looking to do quite a few audits in a year and to have different experiences, different clients, like you definitely got that. And, you know, again, picking up on the point that it is a really, you know, I guess a close-knit business, really. You know, you do get to know people quite well, and, you know, as evidenced by going on holiday together and stuff, there's, I guess, an element of fun in the office and support of each other as well. And I guess that could only have helped now with working from home. You know, you know how everyone works. You can easily pick up the phone and ask for help if you need to. So, yeah, that's good. We've got another question that's come in as well. Could you give us some insight into traditionally busy times of the year, for example, the end of the financial year? So some of our students might not fully understand or appreciate, I guess, that you might have some really busy points. Could you just give us a bit of an insight?
We tend to spread our work across the year quite well. Recently, when we won this group that Hannah mentioned earlier, our busy time was sort of March, because they had December year ends, so they wanted their audits doing in March. You have to file your accounts 9 months after the year end, so it's quite a long time for you to choose when to have your audit, which means it's not all pushed into one. And obviously, companies have different year ends across the year, so we don't tend to have too many busy points apart from March, really, recently.
We have a couple of clients as well who are listed, well, they're owned by a German listed company. So there's about 3 or 4 that we have about a month or 2 to turn around the audit and the accounts, and they're our December year end. So on those handful of audits, that's like quite a quick turnaround and quite a busy period, probably January, February for those.
Very good. Another question. The questions are coming in thick and fast now, so I'm trying to get through them. Another question is, I guess, thinking back to what we talked about a few moments ago around the variety of clients that you might have and that geographic spread. Do you develop good working relationships when you have to go for an audit that's really far from the office? So I think this question's from Stacey. She's got a friend who works in audit who has to travel up to the Scottish Highlands and Islands, apparently. So I presume that's quite far from where you are, Stacey. So I guess if you are going like down south, for example, to do an audit, is that a different type of experience? And how do you ensure that you build up a stronger relationship as you would a business in Bury?
So with these sort of clients, obviously you're on site for the audit, so that relationship is built up whilst you're there. So I suppose it's no different really from doing an audit 10 minutes down the road to being in the top of the Scottish Highlands, because you're still there for that 1 week on site and you have to speak to this client several times a day. So, and also you'll have the correspondence before you go. We'll have like a pre-audit meeting with them, pre-year end meeting. So you're only spending that same amount of time with them, so it doesn't really matter on the distance, I suppose.
Thank you. It's a good answer. Another question, and this is from Ben again, who's keen on the questions. How is the audit industry adjusting to digitisation? Does it speed up inspections?
Yeah, it does. So a lot of clients are starting to scan in their invoices instead of keeping paper records. So they can just send us the files electronically, or they can just search for them and bring them up within 2 seconds rather than searching through a big paper file. So it is speeding things up, yeah. Yeah, I would say it is.
Yeah, this was helped by making tax digital. So previously, when you were submitting VAT returns, you just entered the figures in manually into HMRC's website and submitted your VAT returns. And now there is a link between your accounting software and HMRC. So basically, when you submit your VAT return, they are able to trace back to every box, every figure that makes up that total in the VAT return. So that's helped a lot. For us, because obviously now clients are keeping a lot more complete records rather than just thinking, well, I calculated that VAT return on this piece of paper and I don't know where I put the piece of paper now.
We've got a follow-up as well. Could bookkeeping software threaten the industry in the future with more stringent checks to avoid human error?
Bookkeeping software, it could threaten maybe bookkeepers' jobs, but I wouldn't say it's threatening the audit industry. Mainly when we do an audit, I mean, we are looking for errors, but a lot of time it's to do with how a company wants to present their statements rather than errors. So they might want to show a good year of sales. So rather than being an error on their software, it's more of a judgment that they've made in their accounts. So the bookkeeping software might not really come into that sort of thing.
Very good, thank you. So yeah, please do keep the questions coming. Some really good questions we've just had then. I'll go back to my list of original questions now, and it leads in really nicely because you've described in quite a lot of detail there, you know, the ins and outs, I guess, of audit and the clients that you work with in that variety, and also what you really love about it as well. But I guess thinking back to when you were finishing up your undergraduate degrees, what exactly attracted you to work in audit and accounting? Was there a moment where you thought, yes, this is the career for me? Or yeah, could you just give us a little bit of an insight?
So as I said earlier, I did a business and finance degree, and then in my third year I was able to specialise, and I chose finance, which obviously had the accounting module. And I was kind of looking at a broad aspect of jobs, really, business advisory and accounting, and I'd actually done an accounting A-level, which I really enjoyed. So I kind of actually fell into the job at DTE. I applied for the job, I got it, and yeah, I mean, I'm so glad that I did do it, obviously, because the ACA qualification is something on top of your degree that nobody will ever take away from you, and it stands you in such good stead for your future. I remember quite early on in my studies at BPP, which is where we do our ACA qualification, one of the tutors saying to me that 60 or 80% of managing directors will have the ACA qualification. So obviously that's a good asset to have.
For me, I did a maths degree, so it wasn't really related to accountancy. I mean, it's obviously numerical in a way, but it's not really related in the business sense. So I kind of finished university without knowing what I wanted to do. Sort of read up on different careers, what I might be good at, what I might be interested in, and just came across an accountancy page and thought, yeah, I think that might suit me. So applied for the job at DTE and was successful.
Fantastic. And you've had such a quick career progression as well in a relatively short space of time. So would you say that's another, I guess, aspect of working with a mid-sized firm? Is there greater career progression?
Yeah, I think so. I think because we've built up this working relationship with the clients over the years, and we know them so well. And yeah, like Lauren said earlier, working at DT, you get such a broad knowledge of everything, the tax, the accounts, the audit, that I think that we like to keep people who have worked through that knowledge, because as we've said before, people that come from top 4 or even top 10 companies will just work in audit, and they wouldn't necessarily know how to prepare a set of accounts or really know how to draft the tax computations or do the bookkeeping or the VAT returns. So by keeping, by promoting people who've started from a junior role, they've got all of this knowledge that we would need in a manager.
Fantastic. We've got some more questions coming in as well. Stacey would like to ask, could you share any insights into your work-life balance of working as a trainee auditor and also completing further professional exams?
It can be quite a challenge. The good thing about it is that they tend to come in blocks, so it's not all of the time. It's maybe 3 months at a time you might be working and then studying in your evenings and weekends, and it is hard. I wouldn't underestimate it, but at least you do get sort of 3 months on, 3 months off, generally.
With our study programme as well, we tend to send everybody to our learning provider BPP, so that will be, you physically go to their campus and you learn there, whereas a lot of the big top 4 or top 10, they tend to encourage online study, which is quite difficult for some people. So yeah.
Yeah, with the ACA as well, you generally go to college during work time.
Okay.
So you get time off work, block release. I think lots of people that study for the ACCA have to do that in their own time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, that's definitely an added bonus if you can complete the study during your work time. And I guess thinking about when you were sort of training to be auditors, could you just describe a little bit of the support that you received from colleagues at DTE? Because I'm sure it was helpful to have professional qualified auditors, senior managers there around you while you're studying.
Yeah, anybody really can help you with the studies in the office. Generally, like I said before, 3 people go to college at once, so they've got each other. They've got like a close circle that they can ask queries to and go through the exams with, and then if they don't understand anything, they do sometimes come back to the office and say, how does this work in real life, or I don't really understand this, can you give me an example? And we might be able to give them like a real life client example that helps them understand it better than just looking at a textbook.
Fantastic. More questions coming in, so thank you. Do keep them coming. We've still got plenty of time. A question from Matthew. What soft skills would you recommend students to develop if they're wishing to prepare for a career in audit? Quite a general one, but what skills would you recommend for someone who wants to work in audit? What would be the top skills that you'd recommend that they develop?
The key skill for me is problem solving.
Yeah.
Being able to look at something and work your way through it, and not giving up because it's a bit difficult. That for me is a key skill in accountancy and audit.
Yeah. It's confidence as well, like we've said before about going out on audits, and you will have to speak to people about how something works and talk through things with clients. So just being able to be approachable and confident in what you say, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess with the confidence, you possibly build that up over time, wouldn't you, as well? So
yeah,
when you first started doing this, do you ever go out there with someone else to do an audit to start with?
You'd go in teams, yeah.
Yeah.
So generally it's 2 or 3 people that would go out on an audit at once. It's the manager that would come in, drop in from time to time, and then you've also got the partner as well that you can ask.
Fantastic.
We tend to keep the same people on the jobs as well year on year. So as a junior, a graduate would be going with a senior that could have been there 2, 3, 4 times before. So they'll be able to introduce people and point them in the right direction and give them kind of a what you're going with speech, kind of, this is what you want out of it, not just sending somebody in blind. So yeah.
Fantastic. And I guess you're both audit managers now, so you've got I guess trainees working with you and going out there to do audits together, so it's, you can see the full circle, can't you? You can see the whole thing.
Yeah.
Got another question here. Oh, go on, sorry. Go on.
No, we're just very sympathetic of people who we were in those shoes 5.5 years ago.
Yeah, I've got another question here. Do you have any recommendations for how students could utilise this time during, well, I guess during lockdown, to make themselves more appealing to working in audit or working for, a firm like DTE?
Ooh, it's quite difficult because we don't really have any experience during this time, unfortunately. I mean, we're all working from home, so we're not able to offer any work experience to anybody at the moment. So it's quite a difficult one. Other than, I suppose, researching what exactly you want to do, which qualification you want to do. Do you want to be an accountant in practice, or do you want to be an accountant in industry? I suppose just researching and trying to understand what you want your career to look like is going to stand you in good stead when you come into interviews.
Yeah, I think that's a really important one, and definitely would echo that. I think if anyone can do research over the summer into different sort of career paths, and by attending sessions like this, you're well on your way to understanding more about different sectors and whether or not that's the right path for you, I guess, as well. So do make sure that students get a bit of a break over the summer. You don't need to use all your time all the time, and hopefully there'll be plenty of opportunities to do research. So yeah, thank you, Lauren. I've got another question from Ben. Do the companies in the industry provide tax advisory services while providing an audit service to the same company? Could this be unethical?
Yeah, there are independence issues when you're providing non-audit services to an audit client. But at DT, we've got a separate tax team that wouldn't be involved in the audit at all. So that's kind of how we would manage that sort of threat, just separate teams. And it is allowed, like I say, it's not allowed for listed companies, but it's not against the ethical codes or anything for non-listed entities.
Very good, thank you. Hopefully that answers your question, Ben. We've still got sort of, more than 10 minutes. If anyone does have any questions, please do keep them coming. Let's have a look at my list again. We've kind of touched on this in the last question, but I guess if there's anyone looking to develop commercial awareness around audit, are there any top tips that you'd recommend? Any places where students could do some research? Would you recommend any resources?
I suppose the Institute website, the ICAEW website, will offer you an insight into the training programme. But also, I suppose, just keeping the commercial awareness of what's going on in the news, kind of looking into any businesses that could be potentially going under during this pandemic, and just looking at how they've gone wrong, and just reading news articles on business websites, and just keeping awareness of that. Yeah.
Very good, thank you very much. Another question. What is the best work experience to put on a CV in order to have the best chance of, I guess, impressing the recruiters at DTE?
For me, any work experience is good. It's very difficult to offer somebody a job when they've got no work experience at all. But any work experience can give you skills that would be useful in an accountancy career. For me, I worked at McDonald's before, and it gives you sort of customer services skills that you can transfer to a career in audit. So anything really. I wouldn't say anything specific. Obviously, if you can get a work placement at an accountancy firm, that's going to be quite relevant, but I don't think I would judge anybody higher or not just because of that.
Yeah, obviously we are recruiting graduates, and we don't expect people to have had a year, 2 years experience of working in an accounts or audit department, because obviously that's what you will be taken on as a junior role to do, to get that knowledge and that development. So but like Lauren said, it's just having a job, it's having that, knowing that somebody's had the motivation to drive themselves to get a job during the studies, and also the confidence that they will have obtained from that job.
Fantastic, yeah, really good points there. Thinking about guess the opportunities that you might be offering at DTE Group. I know there's possibly quite a lot of uncertainty, as with many organisations at the moment due to the pandemic. But I guess, do you have any summer internships, placement years, or graduate roles that you recruit for? And could you give us a little bit of an insight, I guess, into the types of opportunities that our students might have, to work for you, I guess?
Yeah, every year we recruit about 3 graduates, and sometimes a school leaver as well. We don't generally offer placement years, but it is something that we could consider going forward. And summer placements, we don't generally offer that either, but we do occasionally offer work experience time for people if it fits in with our schedules. There's a bit of a learning curve with it, because you've got to learn all about the software and everything before you can get into it. So we wouldn't generally offer anything less than 3 weeks, just because you've got to get your head around the processes and things before you can start doing the work.
Yeah, so as Lauren said, we usually do a graduate recruitment day in March, which unfortunately was just after the lockdown, so this year's had to be cancelled completely. But obviously now we are not taking an intake as such for September, so we are thinking about deferring this and hopefully being able to take in the graduates once this is all lifted, and potentially in the new year, beginning of 2021. But we'll have to see how this affects the business after it's all cleared.
Yeah, there's still lots to think about, isn't there, I guess? But hopefully you've seen quite a lot of brilliant questions coming in. There's some very keen students here at Lancaster who no doubt would make a big impact. So if and when you do get those opportunities, do send them across, and we're delighted to circulate them. Obviously it sounds like a really fantastic place to work and a good starting point for many trainees as well. We've got another question that's come in as well. This one, I think it might not be a question. I think it's just a comment from Ella. She's mentioned that to add voluntary experience to your CV could be very helpful as well. Yeah, and it could help boost your general confidence as well as other interpersonal skills as well. I guess outside of work experience, what else do you look for on a CV? Is there anything that you kind of pick up sometimes? You think that's a really good thing to add into a CV?
So we've recruited people in the past that have been very good in the hobbies. So we've had a sailor, a runner, horse rider, triathlon, all sorts really. And I suppose for us that just shows that somebody's got that drive to push themselves, to being able to commit time to something outside of a social life as such. And the people that we've taken on that have done well in these sort of sports outside have been very committed to the studies and done really well in the studies, because they've obviously been committed to the sports that they've done alongside the study. And as I said earlier, I've got a horse that I compete at quite a high level, and that's, I suppose, when you're studying, it really helps you to divide your time and just be strict with your study. And you think, if I want to do this, I have to study now for these 4 or 5 hours, and then I can do that afterwards. So yeah.
Very good. There's no other questions on the chat, but if anyone does have any further questions for Hannah and Lauren, please do send them across. We've got a little bit of time left. I guess another thing that's interesting from my point of view is the qualification and I guess the exams that you do. And you've mentioned quite a bit already about the ACA and obviously working with BPP. But is there any, I guess, thinking about the whole process, how does it work in terms of the modules that you do and the types of things that you study? Could you give us a bit of an insight into, what the course looks like?
Yeah, the course has got 3 stages. So the first stage is called the certificate level, which are all multiple choice, mostly multiple choice exams, and they kind of give you the foundation in accountancy. So they'll be based in accountancy, tax, bit of business as well, and then you'll do the professional stage. So there's 6 exams in the first stage, and then 6 exams in the professional stage, and they just go a bit further. So they're on the same kind of topics, but they just add to it. And then in the advanced stage, there are 3 exams. One is called corporate reporting, which is sort of accounts and audit, and one is a business-based exam. And then the final exam is a case study, which you get given a few weeks before, and they ask you some questions on this particular business.
Very good. I've heard the case study is particularly challenging, I guess. Were there points during the process that you found to be more challenging than others?
There are certain exams that we find harder, yeah. I suppose being in mainly accounts and audit industry, then we might struggle a little bit with the business aspects, maybe a little bit with the tax as well, because we don't really deal with that day to day. The case study can be quite challenging as well.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good insights, and obviously, if anyone's listening and you want to find out, like in detail, what the process is and what the different modules are and the different types of assessment, I'm sure all the information is available on the ICAEW website for anyone to look at, as well as lots of top tips, I guess, for study as well. Got another question for both of you, if that's okay, from Stacey. So she's asking if you're planning on staying in audit for the majority of your career. So I guess you've progressed so quickly to be audit managers. You know, what's the rest of your career hold for you, do you think?
I personally don't have any plans to change my career. I'm quite happy in audit at the moment. Still get a big variety day to day. We're winning new clients all the time, so I'm enjoying it. So yeah.
Yeah, same. As Lauren said, we're winning new clients regularly, and it's also that you learn something new every day. Literally in this job, a client can email you something, you think, "Oh my words, how do I answer that?" And I don't think there'll ever be a point where I don't think, like, I haven't learned something new this day, or that I know how to answer everything perfectly. And I suppose as long as you keep growing and you keep learning, it will keep you interested. You are never going to become stagnant. And yeah, I don't have any plans to move in the near future at all. I don't think I'd be able to do a job where I did the same thing day in, day out at all, and didn't have that progression route in front of me.
Yeah.
I think starting your career in audit is a good foundation for going into practice as well, though, if you did want to make that move, because you've come across so many different industries doing audit that you'll have an understanding wherever you go, and you'll have seen so many different types of accounting software, and yeah, it'll just give you a really good
100%.
Yeah. No, it's really good. And I think across the whole of this session, like I've mentioned a couple of times, your passion for what you do is really clear, and you know the variety of work that you've got, and the chance to make a really positive difference to clients and to build up good relationships. It all sounds like a good career path for anyone to consider. So thank you for sharing all those insights. We do have a final question from Ben. Just I guess thinking about working with your clients, to what extent do companies you look at keep to industry standards and practices rather than just the law? I don't know how much you're allowed to share, but
a lot of companies, I don't know if this is really what Ben's asking, but a lot of companies would look to develop their companies rather than just sticking to the law. So for example, we've got a client that's a waste management company, and there are obviously a lot of laws and regulations around how you're allowed to dispose of waste, and they are looking into sort of more ways to recycle, better ways to make their processes more efficient, rather than just staying within what they're allowed to do. They're doing a lot of research and development around that kind of thing. So a lot of companies do look to do research and development. There's a lot of tax relief that can be gained from doing research and development as well.
Thank you. So we've got literally just a couple of moments left, and I wondered whether to kind of end on a really positive note, have you got any final top tips for our students who might be, really interested in a career in audit? Any sort of final words of advice?
Apply for as many jobs as you can. It's all a good learning process. I think you'll find that some of the interview processes at some accountancy companies will be a lot more robust than at others. I think they can involve some quite harsh tests and stuff, so it's all a good learning experience. And as we've said before, if you feel like you could potentially try and get some work experience somewhere, just try and apply for that beforehand as well. It's a good foot in the door for people. When you've learnt the systems, as Lauren mentioned, then it stands you at a great stead, because you've kind of reduced that training time at the beginning of your contract that we would have to usually give to somebody.
Yeah, I would agree.
Fantastic. So thank you very much, both to Lauren and to Hannah. Some really great insights into your industry, into your company, into DTE Group. Rachel's just posted a link to DTE Group there for anyone that would like to find out some more information. But also really clear that you enjoy what you do. You've had some really fantastic career progression over the last 4 or 5 years, and it's quite evident that it's a good place to work. So, we're really proud to work in collaboration with you through our events, and I'm sure we'll have many more opportunities for our students to find out more about DTE Group too. If anyone does have any questions, is there a good way for us to signpost questions to you just after the call?
Yeah, you can email us. Yeah.
Perfect.
We can provide you with our contact details after this, yeah.
Perfect. So well, if anyone's listening and you'd like to ask any follow-up questions, we'll make sure that we circulate the email addresses. And are you on social media, LinkedIn?
Yeah.
Any students follow? Yeah.
Perfect. We don't use it that much, but we're novices.
Well, thank you very much. I hope that you've enjoyed the Q&As as much as I have, and certainly from the students. We don't usually get this many questions, so there's obviously a strong appetite and ambition for audit. So thank you so much for your time, and also thank you to Ella as well, and to Rachel for setting up all of this, and to Stacey as well. But yeah, really appreciate your time. Very insightful session, and hope to speak to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.